You're listening to The Hardpoint with Onexpunchxdad and Code Rome's.
Welcome back to The Hardpoint, episode number 24. Oh my God. Where did that come from? My name is Josh. I go by Onexpunchxdad online.
My name is Cody. I go by Code Rome's. And I feel like we need to say an athlete right off the top because I just got to say, last week, the people didn't catch our sarcasm about Michael Jordan.
No,
and we had people in the
upset.
comments like, these morons don't even know Michael Jordan was 23.
Y'all got. Y'all don't even realize it.
I don't even have a 24. You have a 24?
I don't either. 24. I'm trying to think. In football, that's normally like a back, like a fullback, right?
Yeah. I don't know any super notable 24. Well, whatever. We're not being sarcastic this time, so if we're missing something super obvious, drop it in the comments. Was Kobe Bryant 24? I know he had two numbers. He had 8, and then he was 24.
Mamba was 24.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right,
Kobe
there we
was
go.
24, man. Yep, there you go. Let's see. Who's known for number 24? Ken Griffey Jr., Willie Mays.
Okay.
A couple other ones. I know Ken Griffey Jr. That name is vaguely familiar to me.
I even just said I was a fan of Kobe like 2 episodes ago, and then I didn't
even
immediately
know.
I didn't say a big fan. I just said, fan.
I'm glad this has turned into a regular opportunity for us to just infuriate the audience as they're like driving to work. They're like screaming. Last week was probably like the best example of them screaming into their car audio, just like, it's Michael Jordan.
That's what sets the hard point apart. We're out here infuriating our audience.
We're here to get a rise out of you. That's what we're here to do. How you doing, man?
I'm good. We certainly don't want to talk about it more, but we finished our 4th and final baby shower of the month, so can go ahead and shelf that whole thing and put those behind us.
Baby shower complete.
Cool. Baby shower complete. I think there's one in May, but it's a girls only, so I'm in the clear.
Nice.
I'm good. Yeah. So that behind, we finished putting some furniture together in the nursery. I finished the dresser yesterday, which took me 6 days to put together. We're starting.
Can I ask, was the challenge the rolly rails part? Was that the difficult part to get?
It was the drawers and the rolly rails for sure. After that crib, if you'll remember, I told you I had such a hard, frustrating time with that I was like, you know what? This doesn't have to be done all in one sitting. I don't have to burn 4 hours in a row putting this together. So I worked on it for like an hour a day for about 6 days.
Good on you, man.
Yeah. So
you're putting furniture together. I'm taking it apart. So the dichotomy.
What's going on with you?
So we are in the throes of moving right now, which it really just doesn't matter how much you plan for it, and it doesn't matter how much you like batten down the hatches. Moves are just generally stressful, especially when you got, my kids are all very young, so they are, despite, they're getting to that age where they want to try to help.
Sure.
But they are still very much like underfoot. And so keeping them fed, keeping them occupied, and effectively out of the way, that's just kind of like an evolving challenge through it.
Sure.
And then just like timelines, you're fighting against like, we got to be ready to move out and like clear out of this one place. We want to get everything into the new place so that it's livable. It is just like a constant battle of timelines that is... My God, it is extremely stressful. So
you hit at
once
least,
we get through this,
you hit at least a few times where you question the entire decision entirely, right? Like,
it really calls your entire decision to move. Period. If it is your decision, because a lot of times it's not.
Sure.
For me, this one was a voluntary one, but a lot of like we could have just stayed. I was actually like right before we logged in. Actually, I was having the thought like, this could be just a normal week for me, but I wanted to move. I bought a house. I'm the ding dong here. So,
man, I heard. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say it's going as good as it can for the circumstances. So we're just adapting.
Sure. I heard on a podcast that I didn't know this was a thing. So obviously, there's movers who will move your packed up stuff out of your house, transport it, unload it.
Right.
But there's now a such thing as packers, which will actually take everything, break it down, put it in boxes, do the tape job, which to me, the packing is almost more of a beating than the actual moving part. So if you
it is,
combo those two things, that's pretty sweet right there.
Especially like furniture. Like, I'm not trying to like sound like an old dude who's like, they just don't make stuff like they used to. They really don't. And I will tell you, like, that crib you just put together, the chest of drawers you just put together, that has probably one or two of those left in it. It has one or two broken down, putting back together in it. If it is the make and quality that I imagine it is, which I would say the mean level of furniture of that variety, where like you order it on Amazon, you get the kind of like shrink wrapped screws and bolts, right, with the little Allen wrench in there. Those, on average, one or two taken apart, put back together again.
And then the entire thing is real loosey-goosey.
It's cattywampus, it's off kilter, or it's just straight up. If it's more wood than it's metal, it's just gonna start disintegrating after a while. It's literally the wood's just gonna do the whole Avengers Infinity War. I don't feel so good, Mr. Stark, and it's just gonna start to wither.
Yeah.
For no reason other than you unscrewed and screwed it back in to move it across the country or across town. So, that is just one of those things. Like even like my desk, I can tell like I'm gonna try to not break it down as much as I hope I'm not gonna have. I'm gonna try to break it down the least amount that I have to, right, to get it moved. I have a feeling it's not gonna feel the same in the new house just because of that, right? The wood, after having been unbolted from the metal, is going to change shape or warp in some way. The floor is going to be a different shape. Not going to be quite as tight. There's going to be a rattle where it used to be solid. So, invest in solid oak furniture for everything you own. Should be solid oak.
Solid oak, and consider packers.
And consider packers. I will say we are raw dogging this move. We are, again, it's a voluntary move, so the government is not pitching in or saying, oh, we'll help, we'll front the cost. They only really do that in the military, for me, if you are on orders and you're getting stationed somewhere else. That not being the case, this being a voluntary move, we are basically, it's up to us to make this move happen. So everything from the truck, the packing, the moving, is really falls to us. So I'm trying not to do that thing where I put it on someone in my life to like, hey, we're moving. Can you come? I'll get beer and pizza. Right. I don't want to do that to anybody. I don't want to put anybody out. But yeah, like there's a few things. Like I've got a couch in this room behind me that is upstairs. Like I need another man's body for that.
Right.
Our laundry is upstairs, so I've got to get a washer and a dryer downstairs. Like there's going to be a few things I have to just like suck it up and either hire somebody or call in a favor, but I'm trying to do that the least amount, which in hindsight I'm going to probably regret, but
just give me a call, man. I'll come right up there and help you out.
You got your own problems to worry about, man. You got baby on the way. You got,
man.
mom's getting nice and ready. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be a big boy about my decision to move and just, handle it. But I also am getting to that age where if I lift something the wrong way, like a bowl of beans, for instance, I'll throw my back out.
You got to limber up before moving. You have to warm up. You got to stretch. You got to act like you're going to the gym.
I kind of wonder if I'm that age where I need to wear the lifting belt when I'm not lifting, like straight up. Like, you know how like some dudes who have like a strenuous labor-intensive jobs have the belt on, and you're like, oh, that's maybe I should invest.
Yeah, maybe so. Better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah,
I would just
if I take myself out of commission too early on in this move, I have no choice. I have to outsource all the work.
Sure, exactly. Yeah, slow and steady wins the race. I just envision your new place. When you're questioning, your new place looks beautiful. Can't wait to see it. Obviously, the moving sucks, but I really think once you get there, it's all going to be worth it. So
it is.
You're in the middle of the
shit
shitstorm right now, but you'll get on the other side.
Yeah. And it's just like it's this mixed with like my wife's out of town right now, and I was on the road last week.
Sure.
The week before last, I guess now. It has just been thing after thing, and I do not feel like I have experienced legitimate rest in days.
Got to film a podcast.
Well, no, it's not even that, honestly. Like, this is a good opportunity for me to just be vocal about, like, where
Sure.
I'm at. I am a fucking mess right now. Like, I legitimately have not been resting well. I've not been... I'm not going to work, so I'm out of a routine. Routine is a foreign thing to me right
Sure.
now. Yeah, man, like if I can just be candid, like it's not even that I'm not taking good care of myself. I am just like in survival mode right now,
Right.
in this way that like I actually, looking at the clock as of this record, it's 5:20 in the evening, have not eaten a bite today. And I just thought about that.
Man,
I was racking my brain to think like, what did I eat today? Oh, 2 cups of coffee.
that's how you know you're busy. When you forget to eat, that is a surefire sign that you got a
For
lot
me,
going
that's
on.
huge because I am a grazer, man. Oh my God. Like, I am literally like, I'll eat the bark off the trees if there's nothing around, man. Yeah, straight up, man. I am just straight up in this kind of weird suspended survival mode. And, yeah, man, it's things happen. But I'm just kind of rolling with the punches, you know, trying to be a good dad to my kids. My kids have been great. My kids are at that age where they can actually like rally around me. And
Sure.
that's happened several times in the past couple of days where they came to me and were like, "Hey, Dad, we're going to get through this. It's going to be all right." So
That's really cool. That's really cool.
it is, man. And I'm really grateful for that. So yeah, not to inflate it into something that is, you know, it seems like it's worse than it is. But yeah, it's been a rough couple weeks. But the podcast is a welcome break from all that shit. So yeah, rock and roll.
Well, I appreciate you doing this. I insisted a couple times that it would be very okay and very understandable if we didn't record this week. And you overruled my insistment. I don't know if that's a word. With your insistedness. And said, no, we're recording. So
Yeah.
everybody needs to know that. Like, I don't ever want to miss a week, but I think there are scenarios where I'm like, it's okay. Because sometimes you have real life shit going on that kind of overrules a side project, right?
Nah,
And,
I mean, we're this, you know, proof positive, right? We're making it happen in a pretty tense moment in my life.
Yeah.
Like, we absolutely could have, should have, and are making it happen. And so,
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it.
It was a good incestation on my part, I think, to do this episode.
Is that the word?
Incestation. No. It's I don't think there is like a noun like insistence. That's it. My insistence.
Insistence.
Per Josh's insistence, we are doing an episode this week. Come hell or high water. Yes.
There we go.
All right.
All right.
So, real quickly, I will say this episode might end up being kind of a short one just because we're moving and shaking over here. Mm-hmm. But we have a really fun topic to talk about today. We kind of on-ramped it last week, so if you caught last week's episode, I think you know pretty well what's coming. Or if you're watching on YouTube and you just saw the, what do we call it, the thumbnail, you probably already know. But before we get to that, let's get into some crushiness.
All right.
Cody, I would like to formally ask your hand. What are you? I don't know why I teed it up. Like, what are you crushing this week, man?
I got 2 things, and I'm pretty excited about both of them. I'll start with the sillier of ones. And I got to say, both of these things, I got to give you credit for introducing me on both of them. The first one's a food item.
Oh,
A food item.
I bet it's not a vegetable. I bet it ain't a vegetable.
You know what?
100-1, it's not
there
a vegetable.
might actually be veggies in. I don't know. We'll discuss afterwards. It is a Asian accessory thing that goes by the name of Chili Crisp.
Let's go. Let's go.
Chili
Hold
Crisp,
on.
bro. Oh. So I was down. I
Pause and reflect on the greatness of Chili Crisp real quick.
Man.
Let's go.
Reflect. I was down at your place probably a couple months ago, and you made me like some beef fried rice. And you said, bro, have you ever had
No
Chili
veggies.
Crisp? Yeah, no veggies. And I said, no. And you put some in there. It was incredible, dude. It tasted like takeout Chinese food. It is
From the restaurant.
Yes, it is the taste of takeout Chinese food in a little sauce. And so I got me some. We make beef fried rice here all the time. And usually I just go soy sauce, but I told my wife soy sauce is more of the accessory food to the Chinese taste, not the main driver of the flavor, right?
Yes. It's a condiment. Like,
Right.
you can have ketchup, but if the French fry is not restaurant quality, that ketchup can only do so much.
Exactly. So you do the beef fried rice, you put the chili crisp in there, maybe some soy sauce on top of that. From what I had remembered at your place, it was amazing. It did not disappoint, man. It will elevate your homemade Chinese food to levels previously thought impossible. It is so good.
It's a game changer, man. And I will for the health nuts in the room. It's not great for you. It adds a significant
really
amount of
bad.
calories and saturated fat to your meal. But a dab will do you. I will say you do not have to.
Right.
So I have started using it less because you can put it in with the food while you're cooking. You can add it after. It really doesn't matter. It's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
But I have found that a spoonful, just a tablespoon or a regular spoon, I don't know, into the dish, like a ground beef kind of fried rice type dish, or even like kind of Mexican inspired. You know, if you're putting some cumin and some chili powder in there.
Sure.
Either way, work it into the dish as you're cooking it.
Yes.
And as I say, a dab will do you, man. You get that flavor. You get that sesame oil, that fish oil kind of chili flake.
Yeah.
The one I get, the brand I get, I can't remember what it's called, but it's got the little soybeans where they're kind of crunchy, what do they call edamame or edamame or whatever. It's got those in there, so a little bit of texture. But man, oh man, yeah, Chili Crisp will make your Chinese food that you make by yourself, especially if you're a white person, it'll make it taste like not a white person made it. I'll say that.
Man.
It's very much, it captures the essence of Asian cooking in a spoonful. Very well.
You've put me onto a lot of things, but this is one of the best things. It's so good. And I was actually going to say this. It's not healthy. I was looking at it, or my wife was looking at it rather, and she's like, there's canola oil in here. There's all types of shit that you probably normally wouldn't, take in.
Use sparingly. I would recommend.
You're right. One serving's enough. You don't need more than that. So, Chili Crisp, if you're listening, listen to me in your sweet, sweet little ears. Go buy some Chili Crisp.
10 years from now, the Hardpoint, I'm prophesying right now. 10 years from now, we're gonna have our own brand of Hardpoint Chili Crisp.
Fuck yeah. I love it. Number
There you
2,
go.
quickly, is a band that you also put me onto. And that band goes by the name of Spiritbox. Now,
Let's go.
I've kind of overlooked them, and I got to say, not all the songs are good. They got a couple bangers, though. Again, if you're listening, listen to me. If you're a fan of heavy music, go listen to Holy Roller and Cellar Door. And tell me those songs aren't awesome. And the thing that's kind of cool about them, they do have a female singer. If you didn't know she was female, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. She's got some pretty gnarly screams.
Guttural,
yeah.
like screams.
And they're not even good
just-
like for a girl. Like they're just good, right? They're just really good vocals. So Holy Roller, Cellar Door, those have kind of been my pre-jam or in-jam jams.
Oh man,
I've
I've been waiting for you to enter into your Spiritbox era, man. I gotta say, man, I wish I had my phone handy here, but I think it's a Jaded, maybe.
Yep, Jade is good. Circle with
Jaded
Me is
is-
another good one.
Oh, Circle With Me is the first Spiritbox song that I ever heard. Yellow Jacket is quietly like, it's a little bit more, what's the word? like programmed sounds, like synth, I guess, synth driven. The intro to it is pretty much just all synth, really,
Right.
with some guitar laid over it. But that goes really hard. They've done some great. They did a really good collab with Make Them Suffer, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. They've done some really interesting stuff. Spiritbox, very very prominent right now. Like they, I think, just have come out of the COVID era of bands that were born in the COVID era. Really just with a strong, just really strongly branded band. I know it sounds dumb, and I'm not a marketing person or anyone who knows any better anyway, but they just have a beautiful consistency to their just their sound and a predictability about them, but a uniqueness also. I don't mean to say that they are predictable in the music that they create, but just a really good what's the word I'm trying to think of? Damn. They're, I don't know, they're good as fuck, man. Listen to Spiritbox. Hell yeah. I lost my see, I had something there and I was trying to sound smart.
I agree. They're really good, and it took me a little bit to get on them. But the vocals are really cool. I like I said, they're not good for being a girl. They're good just period,
Absolutely,
general,
yeah. Courtney LaPlante is her name,
yes.
and she absolutely, like, pound for pound, toe to toe with any male vocalist who has that kind of just shrieking uppers, guttural lowers, really good. We used to call them dinosaur vocals, but like where you have highs and lows kind of going at the same time.
Right.
All of that. She sounds great, and her singing voice is she's almost kind of a baritone. She has a very deep, singing voice that puts her in a really unique range. So a lot of their choruses and melodic verses come across really almost kind of haunting. So, and
along with the reason I like Make Them Suffer so much is because they're so heavy, and they'll have these female choruses on top of that, and that's like really cool combination to me. And Spiritbox brings more of that, except she's doing the screaming and doing the chorus vocals and everything like that. So Spiritbox, 2 thumbs up.
Absolutely for me as well. I will say, in a closing thought to that, I think part of the reason that I, as someone who's not really a part of the generation that is making the preponderance of the music that is popular in the metal scene right now, so your Veil of Maya, like all of the music that's popular right now. I think the reason that I've been so quick to turn away from like the 2000s to 2012s, like bands that I listened to back then, and jump on what's happening right now, is because they do so well the juxtaposition of melodic and heavy. Yes. It is Veil of Maya and the Spiritbox are 2 great examples of bands that will have really just shattering intros and verses, and then it erupts into a hopeful, very triumphant sounding chorus or bridge or something, and then right back into like a punishing breakdown or another verse.
It's the contrast.
I think one of the best examples of that for anyone listening is Doom Switch by Make Them Suffer. That is probably one of the best back and forth between crushing to beautiful and symphonic and melodic, back to I'm about to lift 405 on the deadlift.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the sweet spot for both of us, is a little bit of melody, a lot of heavy, just the blend, the balance, if you will, of those 2 things. Yeah. Very nice. All right. Chili Crisp and Spiritbox. Go get you some. What are you crushing, Josh?
Saying them together sounds kind of interesting. Get you some Spiritbox Chili Crisp. So a lot of what I was crushing this week, I did put a cap on what our meat for the episode is. So that's probably, I'd say, if anything, which we'll get to in a moment here. Around that, I have been, again, kind of like between moving and just kind of trying to take care of my kids and spend time with my kids, with my wife being out of town. I haven't had an abundance of time to sit around and just kind of crush media or crush anything new, listen to anything new. I will say the other night, so we, to my memory, had canceled our Hulu membership like years ago. In my memory, it was gone. We didn't have it. And that was just kind of an effort to we're not watching it a lot. Let's just cancel that for now. We have it. and we've had it. I guess it's like I think it's part of like our Disney bundle or something.
Yep.
And I just like happened to log into it on the downstairs TV and was like, oh, my profile's here. Oh, I can watch the shows. All right, let's go. And I got onto a show that I've wanted to watch for a long time, but haven't because it's been on Hulu. And to my recollection, we just didn't have it.
Sure.
I loaded up the first season of What We Do in the Shadows, which is a show about. It is a comedy show. It is a mockumentary style. So your Office, your what do you call it? Parks and Rec type, a mockumentary, right? But it is about vampires who live in the modern day, right? They are very much like vaudevillian, like they have these like very like out of time clothes, you know what I mean? And they all, talk with funny accents, and they are vampires, right? Just like not even like it's not like a weird modern take Twilight anything. Like they are very much like Vlad Dracula, like
Right.
fucking hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Yes, very, very funny. Matt Berry is kind of the main character who actually plays a role in the show we're going to talk about today. But he is probably one of the funniest comedians working today. For anyone who knows about What We Do in the Shadows, like this show's been out for 4 or 5 years now. So this is not like some kind of deep cut or anything, but yeah, Matt Berry, the whole cast is really funny. There's a lot of really great just one-liners. It's an FX show, but they flagrantly just throw out the F word, which I guess I've been off cable for a long time, but I guess you can say fuck on cable now.
I didn't know that.
Maybe.
I don't really watch it either, so I think
they let the words fly for sure. Not anything crazy, but like in a way that would surprise me in 2010 watching cable. So
is it like like Family Guy? I've heard variations where there's beeps and then variations where you actually hear the cuss words. So is there a chance when it's actually aired on cable that it's beeped or something?
Maybe I know on like Adult Swim, because I'm in a hotel a lot for work. I know on Adult Swim, I think like after 10 o'clock, they will lift the beep.
Okay.
And Comedy Central, I think, might have done something similar to that.
Sure.
But I know there are certain times of day where you can watch and it's just like all
Let
bets
it
are off. And maybe this is a situation where when the show airs, it's unbeeped. But either way, I don't care. Cussing doesn't bother me a bit. So it's just one of those things. I remember like watching, like when a good movie came on TV growing up, like on TNT or USA, like, oh hell yeah, Armageddon's on TV, and they're literally like overdubbing the words with like, I'm gonna kick your butt, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't say that. I know he didn't. I'm a child and I know he didn't say that. The effort you went to beep that man's really PG-13 rated cuss word was probably not worth it, because I know what was said.
Yeah.
It's just funny that that's how we used to do it. But yeah, I remember like censorship in the late 90s, 2000s was wild, man. They were doing the most, and honestly, like I still say fuck and cunt and all that stuff. So didn't really pan out the way they wanted, I guess.
Do you remember TV Guardian?
Okay, hold on. You just blew my mind, because I remember y'all had that, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
I remember that. And I remember your dad, who probably was the one who went to Best Buy or Circuit City or whatever the fuck and bought it. I remember him coming over and being like, yeah, we got it. And it is wild. Like, it just makes the silliest corrections. I don't know what even was that technology. What is it called?
It's TV Guardian, and for what I remember, it was
Guardian.
a black box that sat behind the TV, and I don't remember how it was plugged in or fed in. From what I remember, it didn't replace it with words. It just muted when cuss words came across. So like, it would be the audio, and then when it was supposed to be a cuss word, it would just be silent. Like, it would just cut that word out. And so
did we just find out what ChatGPT's previous job was before it was doing what it was now? Like, that very much seems like if I'm watching like a Elvis, Walk the Line, type of like origin story movie, like Chat GPT being like the robot guessing game overlord that it is right now, that is absolutely like a prior job that it had before
previous
it was
employer.
doing what it. Yes, absolutely. Like humble beginnings as like TV guardian.
That was 20 years ago, though. I feel like that's kind of mind-blowing that 20 years ago we had technology that could just precisely or with precision slice out these cuss words. Like
It was Chat GPT, bro. I'm telling you. Mystery debunked.
That's pretty hilarious.
I'm just kidding. I don't know. But yeah, I almost said no, and then I remember, yes, someone I knew had it. It was you. Your family had it.
We had it.
Yeah, I remember that. No. My mom and dad used to, when we would watch a movie that had cuss words in it, like as a family, because they were like, as strict as my parents were, they took me to see Die Hard when I was like 1. Like they literally, in my little carrier, took me into the theater and were like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, here you go. Like, they were, like, for as strict as my parents were, they had no precept of, like, we should not show them this.
Right.
Like, my dad, I remember the first, like, movie night my dad and I watched was Total Recall. And there's tons of, like, there's tits in that movie, you know what I mean? And so, my parents, when we would watch movies like that as a family, when a cuss word would happen, they would have all the kids would yell, beep, beep, beep. So, like, if someone was like, fuck you, motherfucker, we would go, beep, beep, mom. Beep, beep.
Well, you see, there's one household gets TV Guardian, one household just tells the kids to beep it themselves.
We were just beep, beeping over there. So, yeah.
Beep, beep.
Both are weird, but, you know. Anyway, what was, where, how did I get there? Holy shit.
What We Do in the Shadows. I've never
What We Do in
seen
the
it, man.
Shadows.
I've heard nothing but, like, the people that love that show swear by it. I feel like it has a cult following like The Office or Parks and Rec. Like people love that show, but I've never seen it.
I will tell you, it's probably just that, right? It's in that tier of like, this is probably just background noise TV for the most part. It's funny, man. It is the natural evolution. If you enjoyed The Office, if you enjoyed Parks and Rec, if you enjoy mockumentary style comedies, sitcoms, you're gonna like What We Do in the Shadows. It's funny. It's a little slow in the first season, as all of those shows were, but I think as they develop the characters and you start to realize like all their little isms and like you kind of build out the lore for each of these characters.
Right.
I say lore like, you know, like in the very just general sense that, you know, like a character in a show might have. It's funny. It's funny as fuck. There's a lot of one-liners. I know everyone's heard like you're the most devious bastard in New York City. Like all those like one-liners that are on like Instagram and TikTok right now. The funny stuff is even funnier than that. Like those are just kind of like the memorable ones, but there's a lot more than just the stuff that's kind of funny because it's viral. So
I'll check it out.
What We Do in the Shadows.
If I want some light watching or something, we'll fire that on and check it out.
There you go. But that legitimately has been it. The other thing I've been crushing, we'll talk about in a minute because it absolutely feeds into what we're about to talk about.
Everybody sucks. Anus. All right. So for the main part of the show today, we kind of teased it last week. We're going to be talking about the show on Amazon Prime called Fallout. And if you don't know, it's based on a video game that's been around since the late 90s, right? Been around a good while.
Yeah. Around a minute.
Yep. And I am really, excuse me, I'm really anxious to hear your thoughts on it. I've certainly played the games, more the later ones like Fallout 4, but I haven't spent nearly as much time with it as you have. I'm thinking you have more knowledge of just like the lore and the background and the story. So I think for the listener, you're going to get more of a surface level conversation on my side. And then I think from Josh's side, you'll get more of a knowledgeable, I don't know, better understanding of the world. So this should be a really good conversation. And I was even kind of thinking maybe this first part, we can just have a non-spoiler thoughts in general. And then maybe we can have a hard, spoiler conversation now. And then we can talk about spoilers after that. So we get a little bit of both.
That's a good idea. I think there are some surprises and some twists in this show that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for the emotional investment that was actually like the stakes felt high. There was a lot on the table from a plot point of view in this show. So absolutely, I think as we get into discussion of the story in the show, we will kind of put a hard flag on the ground and let you know, like, hey, if you haven't watched the show, maybe put a pin in this episode,
Sure.
come back and check it out. But yeah, for my part, so my background with the Fallout series, my first playthrough of one of the Fallout games was Fallout 3. It was while I was deployed, and in our downtime on that deployment, this was many years ago. The game had been out for a couple of years, but it came out in 2008. We played it in 2010. Each person in my squad did a playthrough of this game, and initially it took like several attempts to kind of like get interested in it and get going in it. Like the first 15 minutes of that game is kind of interesting, and then when it dumps you out into the world, it's almost overwhelming. This is one of the first open world games that just is kind of like, okay, go,
Pat you on the ass and good luck.
legitimately. And it was a level of freedom that I think, even having played, I think up to that point, I'm thinking open world games, maybe Grand Theft Auto 4 was an open world game. So any of the Grand Theft Autos, those were really the only open world games that I had experienced at that point. Maybe Red Dead 1.
Was
that came
Oblivion?
out
Did you play Oblivion, or was that pre?
So I didn't play Oblivion, but on that same deployment, we had a guy who did an Oblivion run,
Okay.
and I wasn't that interested in it. I was kind of, I don't know. At that point, I was not big into like fantasy, swords and shields type stuff. So I would watch him play through it, so I kind of know what the struggle and the plot of that game is, but not from a depth of like having played it. But Fallout 3 was the first game I took stick into hand. I took controller into hand and was like, okay, I'm gonna play this. It was amazing. It was a game changer. The Fallout games, despite all of the Bethesda guff, I mean, we've shared our rub with Bethesda a lot on this show in terms of Starfield, right? And I think a lot of that is because there's a lot of elements of Starfield that still feel and function the way that Fallout. Like I will tell you, I loaded up Fallout 3 on my PC a couple of days ago to play it, and it very much, there are parts of Starfield that still function exactly the same in 2024.
15 years ago.
I think if anything, like our frustration with Bethesda is like, hey, you know how to tell a good story and set up a good setting, but you haven't grown in terms of gameplay, and your NPCs still kind of walk around aimlessly. But anyway, Fallout 4 came out in 2015, and that was where the series really captivated me, I think. And a lot of people would say, well, New Vegas is in there somewhere. I never played New Vegas, which I know to some people is going to be a cardinal sin, I admit. I concede that New Vegas is probably good, but Fallout 4, being on that next generation of consoles, really grabbed me and took me in. It's a great story. It looks better. It has one of the best talking to people in a Bethesda game mechanics.
Sure.
Where it actually allows your player has a voice. They speak when you choose a dialogue option. It's not like they're not front and center on the camera when you're talking to them, looking right in their eyeballs. It's kind of the rule of thirds. Like the camera is off to the side and it looks like a conversation that's occurring. That's what I want. Also, the settlement building, I probably dumped, probably 500 or 600 hours into settlement building on Fallout. On Fallout 4 specifically. So I have played and know enough of these games and know enough of what's in them to know at the very high level that the show absolutely brought a respect and a reverence for those games that I was not prepared for.
All right.
So
what'd you think of it? Like, if you had to rate it out of 10, like just kind of general speaking, like what was your level of, you loved it, it was okay, like what do you think in general?
So I think my spoiler-free, just kind of hip shot at the wall rating of this show is probably going to be a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
The point deduction. Well, let's talk about the good first. It all comes from that respect, right? There is so much in the set design, prop design, character choices in this game that is respectful of the games without being corny, right? Sure. Like watching the Super Mario movie with my kids and realizing like these studios just went down a list and put stuff in the movie to make it like, we did that.
Right.
That's like in the game and we did it. Moving on. Like there is a scene, and again, this is not a spoiler. We'll let you know when the spoilers are coming, but there's a scene in a vault where the character is kind of looking at this kind of like wide, it's like a crop field right down deep in the vault. There are, it's an atrium, right? There's this kind of high vaulted ceiling in that room that she's kind of looking out over. The ceiling pieces that comprise that atrium are pieces that you can use to build in the Fallout settlement function in Fallout 4. They are those pieces. Like, it looks correct at that level. It was not something like, oh, we'll just make an atrium, right?
Sure.
The signs above the vault is where the show really shines. Or excuse me, the show really shines, because the signs above the doors, the little little Fallout boy, Pit Boy guy who's got his thumb up, the design of the mailboxes, the food items in the show, everything is straight out of the game. But there's no one in the show being like, we got it. We got it.
Right.
We got it right here.
Sure.
No one is doing that. They put it in the show and they allowed you to just experience it natively and organically as you would in the game. They don't slap you in the face with it. The design of I'm sorry, I'm hogging the mic a little bit right now.
No. This is what I want. I'm curious your thoughts.
The design of the vertibird to a T, the design of the airship, the design of the T-60 armor that the Brotherhood of Steel wears, no issues whatsoever. There's no deviation. It doesn't look corny. It's not a thing. It's not a like the Thing in the Fantastic Four where it's like, well, that looks good in a video game, but in real life it looks like shit.
Right.
Overall set, prop, costume design, I really, it's hard to take points away. My only point that I take away from the show is one of the biggest things in the game that you contend with is the environment and the creatures specifically in the environment. Your death claws, your bugs, your, there's a lot of things that are not human that are trying to kill you in the Fallout universe. And while those are represented in the show, I really feel like I wanted to see a little bit more of that to just speak to the hostility and the way that the nuclear bombs changed the it changed America and made it into the wasteland, and why it's this like impassable, hellscape. So I think that's probably my point of deduction is I would have liked to see a few more creatures and abominations show up throughout the show. But all in all, I'm mostly pulling up for the show 100%.
Yeah. I'm glad that they were accurate with all that stuff. Like half of that, not more than half, most of that stuff I didn't even know to be, accurate or not. I think that's just from me spending a lot less times with the game. But I'm glad to hear that they actually, because Todd Howard was pretty involved with this, wasn't he?
So Todd Howard's really involved. The show, I don't know if he's billed as I think he's billed as an executive producer, but the executive producer is Jonathan Nolan, who is Christopher Nolan's brother.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Christopher Nolan, who directed Oppenheimer, Inception, and Interstellar, and The Dark Knight. So it's kind of a unique thing in where, like, if you watch an interview with Jonathan Nolan, he's not a British guy. He speaks with an American accent. He's this really tall, kind of gangly looking dude who doesn't really even read like a film director. I think he helped write the scripts for for the Dark Knight series. His most prominent, I think, contribution to cinema and television right now, got something caught in my throat and made my eyes water, is Westworld, which I loved. I loved Westworld a lot. I loved the vibe, the tone of that. I'm hogging the mic, man. I totally hijacked this back from you again. I'm sorry. Anyway, Jonathan Nolan is a fan of the shows, of the games.
Okay.
Excuse me. With specific emphasis on in 2008 when Fallout 3 came out, he sat down and put a good amount of hours into those games. So to know that the show was handled not only with Todd Howard's involvement from Bethesda, gosh, oh my God. Yeah, it's so beautiful. But that the executive producer, right, the Hollywood presence in this movie
Right.
was someone who had a reverence for it as well,
Yeah.
and had played the game seemingly to a level that any of us could play it.
Yeah.
Felt good, and that's evident, I think, in the show.
Did you have
So,
an
but yeah.
issue with? Because I know you're like bad CGI is one of your things that you hate. Did you have an issue with any of like the visuals in the show or anything like that?
No, from what I could gather, everything that occurs outside of a vault was practical. There's some shots inside a vault where, I think in the initial like episode or episodes of the show, they literally have a green screen that kind of
Yes.
is supposed to. This isn't a spoiler. It's just you'll see it in the first episode, but they literally have a green screen that's supposed to make it look like they are in a cornfield, right?
Right.
Like their crops are growing, but they're growing against a backdrop of like
Yeah.
a screen that's being projected of like a cornfield or a farm. That actually works, and in the scenes where it's evident that those are that there are some green screens at work, again, things like the doors and that those vault pieces, the atrium pieces being lore accurate. I
Yeah.
know that sounds dumb, but like
It's the little things.
those little things to me, if you're gonna use a green screen, but you're gonna go in there and you're going to pull from what the games actually gave us, which are beautiful. Like that, like the games are disgustingly beautiful. That's the thing about Fallout 3. A lot of people didn't like Fallout 4 because right before Fallout 4 was Skyrim, which is one of the most scenic, beautiful, serene games that you can play. From the soundtrack to the setting, it's literally you're walking through the woods. You're walking
Right.
in a misty mountain, right? To Fallout, which is a fucking wasteland. It has been
Right.
destroyed, right? All the plants are dead. All the animals are trying to kill you. It is a hostile environment. It is still so beautiful.
Yeah.
They leaned into that in a way and used a lot of practical sets. Everything above the vault was practical.
Right.
From my knowledge, I think they did some shooting, and for the more like sandy desert locations,
Some of
they
those
shot
shots were
in
really cool too. With the ghoul
yeah.
kind of walking through like a desert, there were a few shots that were really cool.
Yeah, and I want to say in an interview, I think Walton Goggins was talking about they shot those in Namibia, so they legitimately went to a desert to shoot some of that. So, but yeah, the CGI, bad CGI, like this should make Marvel shaking their boots at how
Yeah.
strategic and how smart they were when they use CGI. Absolutely, this is the way you use it.
It's more of a like a complementary thing or an accessory thing, and not the only thing that's creating the visuals.
Precisely, yes. And that's exactly how, it's funny, it's Jonathan Nolan who's making this. His brother, Christopher Nolan, who notably tries to not use CGI.
Yeah.
I think in Oppenheimer, he, famously is like, there's no CGI in this movie. But when he has used it, specifically like your Dark Knight movies or, Interstellar, where it's just kind of you have to at certain points, the way he uses it as a tool and not as the vehicle.
Yeah,
Right? It's
exactly.
not. We're not hopping on the CGI horse and riding it into the sunset, right? There is every effort made to make everything those practical effects. Like even in Star Wars, when it's a puppet rather than a CGI weird prequel monster alien guy, I like that. I'd rather see a puppet. There's something I can only be tricked so much. So
Yeah.
I applaud Fallout's use of CGI and the level at which it's used.
And what about, before we go into the spoiler stuff, there was one more thing. So before we watched it last week, you said, like, even the ones that didn't give it a 9 or an 8, like the 7s that said it was fun, their knock on it was like the tone inconsistency. How did you feel, like, with you knowing the world? I think you said last week that they may have just not have been super familiar, like, with the Fallout world. Did you get any of that, or?
So tonally, and this is not from a visual perspective, I'll talk about just kind of like what happens, the way people talk to each other, the way the plot unfolds. Tonally, the show matched the games. It really did just that. The games are tonally confusing.
Sure.
You will be walking from point A to point B in that game, and you will have an encounter with one character, and that character is funny. They have jokes written that you can, and your responses spawn other jokes in the dialogue options. You'll have really kooky interactions with that character. You'll finish that or kill them or whatever, again, like speaking to the tonal,
Right.
Just like juxtaposition right there. And then you'll walk 10 feet and 5 people surround you and they want to take all your stuff and they want to rob you. And now all your dialogue options are, please don't take my things, or maybe your speech is high enough where it's like you can try to intimidate them.
Sure.
The show matches that almost to a T. It is absolutely tonally confusing. The show gives more to that even because it is doing what, I won't say none of the Fallout games, but it's doing more than any of the Fallout games have done to date, which is giving us a real in-depth look at the world that led up to the dropping of the bombs and the creation of the wasteland. We see a lot of that, which we'll talk about after we make our spoiler announcement. But absolutely, the games are tonally off the wall and fucking crazy. The show is off the wall and fucking crazy, but it is, again, in a way that is completely respectful of the tonal divergence of the game.
Sure.
So for me, as someone who's played the games and understands what's on the table when a Fallout game's being played, I felt like it's as plain as you watch a show, something terrible happens, and they start playing Etta James or Frank Sinatra. That is the show. That's the game, and that's the show. And that's why, as a Fallout fan, I'm happy with the show.
Awesome. Well, I think this
100%.
can be our firm divider between non-spoiler and spoiler. So if you have not seen it, and
Go no further.
yeah, go no further. You've been warned. Anything past this will contain spoilers. So I kind of picked this up. I feel like the show showed a lot, like you already said, a lot of pre-bomb dropping, a lot of background stuff. Was a lot of stuff answered in this show that people had been wondering before, or did it show something that people already knew, but like in a more in-depth way, I guess?
So I would say no, not really. Like in the game, you're almost kind of you're an unassuming, normally like a young person, right? So like you start the game and bombs fell, the world was destroyed effectively, and above the vault is going to be a wasteland, right? There are dozens, and I'm not putting myself as some kind of expert. I'm not a Fallout expert here. There is a lot of the lore, the deep lore for these games that is hidden behind stuff that you have to read or hack a terminal to like get the truth from. I think the biggest gut check for me as someone who's played the games and understands just this is how the world is.
Right.
Comes when Walton Goggins plays Cooper Howard, he's a famous actor. He's essentially like a what do you call it, the Duke, John Wayne, it's supposed to happen in the future, but the setting for the quasi past for this show is that everything's still kind of like 50s Americana, right? Like very much like the men are all drinking whiskeys and the women are all wearing plaid dresses and pearls.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like one of those movie stars of old who gets a job doing ads for Vault Tech, which is the company who makes the vaults from the game. His wife works for Vault Tech. The biggest spoiler, this is absolutely the biggest spoiler, I think, for me, is that his wife, who is a scientist who works for Vault Tech, is the one that plants the idea with the other companies, real companies from the game, by the way, Rob Tech, who makes all the robots in the world of Fallout, West Tech, who makes the power armor that you see in the show. All of those companies are real companies. She is the scientist, the Vault-Tec scientist, who puts forth the idea that in order to validate the need for these vaults that are kind of on the fence whether we need them or not, we should drop the bomb.
Right.
And that, to me, was the biggest shock, like, oh my God, moment, was that Cooper Howard, who is kind of not really sure if he should help this company and do ads for them, his wife ends up being the person that causes the apocalypse effectively.
It is really crazy in that moment. So when he finds out, he's kind of spying on her, right? He has this listening device that's connected to her Pip-Boy or whatever.
Right.
And so he is in the building, and when she's like, when they're talking about it, she kind of jumps in and starts seemingly trying to steer the conversation back away from something like that. And he's like, way to go. Okay. I knew she wasn't pro doing something like that. And then she kind of veers back the other direction and then directly suggests dropping the bomb. In that moment when he hears it, I feel like ringing kind of start. Like you can tell he goes into shock, you're shocked and he's shocked at the same time. It's really crazy.
His stunnedness. Walter I gotta back up for a second. And I know a lot of people are kind of like, this is going to be white noise because everyone is celebrating Walton fucking Goggins right now. Baby Billy, man, color me surprised that he had, in that moment specifically that you just mentioned, Cody, he stuns at how stunned he is. Yes. He very much conveys a broken heart, a blown mind, a rage, a fear.
Yep.
He is feeling so many powerful emotions in that moment and displays and all the while meeting another character of significant note. Absolutely. One of the best moments in the show, honestly, is when Cooper Howard, the ghoul, Walton Goggins character, finds out that his own wife was responsible for the apocalypse. Yeah.
That's also when Lucy's dad walks in, and then you find out that he's not who he says he is. So it's kind of like a double whammy back to back right there. But yeah, that whole scene, like I feel like it sent chills down my spine seeing him be so just shocked, and in shock in that moment. So that was absolutely that was definitely pretty crazy. Trying to think the dad thing. So Shady Shores, or what is
Shady Sands.
Shady Sands. Is that in the game?
So I think it is. And I was, this is a part where this may have been one of the games that I just didn't play. I want to say Shady Sands is mentioned somewhere in a game or a couple of the games.
Okay.
But it is essentially like the world is destroyed. There is an attempt to rebuild the world that gets pretty far along, it sounds like, based on the show. And that, again, gets
bombed.
Seemingly by Vault-Tec again.
Which
there is a sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, I was just gonna say quickly. There was a part in the show where Lucy says, like, I remember feeling sun on my skin, like it was so vivid, and then I grow up and I find out that it's just these lights in the vault, and then you come to find out that her mom took her out of the vault to Shady Sands, and you realize that she was actually outside feeling the sun on her skin. So I remember when she said it the first time, and it was kind of it's just a line that kind of comes and goes, right? There's nothing surrounding it. But then when you find out that she was actually on the surface, that you remember that again and you put it all together, and it's pretty shocking. It was a small moment that really stood out to me.
I want to say, and this is not me like being some kind of like white knight simp. A lot of people giving a lot of shit to the main actress in this show who plays Lucy. I thought she was fucking fantastic as a naive, unassuming vault dweller who doesn't know any better. She perfectly matched the vibe of someone who'd come out of that like Okinsolidoki kind of like environment into this environment where people were actively being like, fuck the vault. You know what I mean? I thought she did great. I thought her change through the series was it was great.
Yeah.
It matched what she should have been feeling. I just wanted to say that I thought she was there's really no weak cast member in this show, man. I'll talk a little bit, if I can, for a minute about the Brotherhood of Steel.
Yes.
Which,
Very interesting.
Very interesting. That's an area where I feel like there was maybe some coloring between the lines that was probably done by the showrunners in order to kind of build out the kind of the hierarchy and the pecking order of how the Brotherhood recruits and grows members and knights, you know what I mean, and how an aspirant becomes a squire,
Right.
becomes a knight, you know what I mean. That's kind of alluded to in the games, and there's probably like a terminal or a book you can read where you find all that out, but to have that shown and kind of you experience that is really good. Again, cannot say enough about how good the vertibirds and the airship and just the general feel of the Brotherhood of Steel is. The moment where Maximus, he's following his Knight Titus around, and Knight Titus, you realize, is a pussy and just another piece of shit who has a suit of armor around him. That moment where that dude has been basically mauled by they're radioactive bears, but in the game, for some reason, they called him Yao Guy, which I don't know what Yao Guy means, but that's if you encounter one of those in the game, it's called the Yao Guy. But it's a radiated bear, right? In the games. He gets basically like beaten up by one of those and is dying and is one stim pack away from surviving this.
Right.
And Maximus lets him die and takes his power armor. It's one of those moments, again, in the game where it's like a moral thing of like, you can choose this or you can choose that. Both have a little bit of wrong in them.
Right.
What are you going to pick? Though that was a great example of how they used the way the games present moral decisions that don't have a perfect answer.
Right.
And it implemented it into the script, and it helped you get that sense of like maybe you didn't make the choice, maybe you didn't hit A to accept, but you felt like you were a part of the choice in a way. I loved that they included that as well.
That was cool. And it's because leading up to that, the Knight Titus was treating Maximus like shit. And then
clean this.
Exactly. And then even right after the bear had kind of mauled him and he needed that stim pack and he, raises his helmet and you can see his face. He's still just sitting there talking shit to Maximus. Like, he needs Maximus to survive. And he's still sitting here saying, this is your fault. They're going to kill you for this, you piece of shit, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And so it's, I don't think anything in Maximus wanted to save him. But then, it's that dichotomy of, well, if you let him die, you kind of killed him at the same time. The whole thing was cool. The power armor was really cool. The first time it showed it when they were at the airfield and they're kind of 3 or 4 of them are walking towards the camera.
They're doing the cool guy walk, man. Let's go. Let's go, man. They nailed that, man. The way from everything I can tell, the power armor is 100% practical. There's a moment where Maximus is obviously has chosen to take the power armor. He goes to this town and some dudes are trying to take it from him. Mm-hmm. They've already beaten the shit out of him. And the power armor the way the power armor opens from the back with a valve in the games, again, that's just goes back to the respect of the games there. So it has these, raiders have essentially opened it up. It's pretty much open. They're fixing to walk into it. And Maximus, who's already been kind of beat up from them, comes back for round 2 and is whipping on him. And they put his back against the open power armor.
Right.
So he's in it, but he's backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And the dude who's kind of the leader of the gang is off to the side. He reaches his hand into the power armor, takes control of the power armor hands, grabs that dude by the fucking dome, and crushes his head. And it is not a blink and you'll miss a thing. It is you see everything, man. And it is, again, I want to applaud the CGI in the show for choosing just the right amount of oh my fucking god,
Dude,
like
that was crazy.
it. Yes,
So crazy.
cannot say enough about the power armor in this show. What else did I want to talk about? Okay,
Well, I was gonna say real quick on the power armor thing. This is a quick thing. When he gets locked in the power armor, dude, that is like my what's the word?
What's the word when you're afraid of small spaces? Damn
Claustrophobia.
it. Claustrophobia. Yes.
Oh my god, that kicked in that moment, and I was like you could hear when he was screaming, like the terror in his voice of I can't move, I'm trapped in here, and this dude's walking away. I can't do it. I panicked in that moment. I'm like, I think that would kill me. Would kill me, man. That was such a terrifying little scene.
Absolutely, yeah. The scene where Maximus gets and the way he gets locked in the armor. I'm not gonna say it can happen in the game, but Thaddeus, his squire, kind of maneuvers around him while he's trying to because it's basically he's found out that Maximus stole Knight Titus's armor. Mm-hmm. So Thaddeus, who is the guy who used to beat up Maximus when he was an aspirant, is trying to run away or fight him or whatever, and he takes the fusion core out from the center of that little valvey thingy, mm-hmm. and it takes away Maximus's power, and his power armor just powers down, and he can't move. That's in the fucking games. If you take a fusion core out of the armor, it does not function. You have to find a fusion core to use the armor, and so effectively, if you're in that, you're locked in it, right?
Dude.
So that's just a prime example of a little joie de vivre that just makes the
Right.
show so much better to me, because it wasn't the big things that hey, Mario throws a fireball or he
Right.
drives a cart. It was that little hey, I know how power armor works.
Right.
And I know if he takes that out, this dude's going to be stuck in there. That is the attention to detail that I want from a video game, movie, television, whatever. There was something else. There's a moment where Lucy is in the vault. The vault that they kind of stumble into. So she teams up with Maximus to find there is a head. There is a guy in the beginning that everyone is looking for. Lucy ends up with that guy who is wounded and realizes he's not going to make it. He has injected himself with something that's important to the plot, and he kills himself. He essentially ingests poison and tells Lucy, you have to cut my head off and you have to take it to the antagonist of the series, because that's what will get you your dad back. Lucy's looking for her dad. Anyway, they've teamed up to find that head together, and they end up falling into a trap which leads to another vault. And there's a scene in that vault where a lot of the timeline and stuff that's happened in the world that Lucy hasn't known about is being revealed. What is important in that scene is when she pulls up the flag, the New Republic of California flag, and they hit the musical motif of the Fallout series, which is the dun 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 dun. I'm not gonna say I almost cried, but I felt. Well, I absolutely had goosebumps.
Yeah.
Because that was the moment. They didn't do it right off the beginning. They didn't check the block. They didn't say it's Fallout, so here's some Fallout music.
Right.
They waited. It was episode, almost the final episode.
Right.
And they finally were here. This is what it's all about. And that, to me, again, just a moment where it just pointed to the respect that the filmmakers had in making this.
Man.
I think I don't know. It's
You
hard.
think
It's
what?
hard to line out how many ways I feel seen as someone who enjoys these games. And again, I'm not a super fan. I don't have a suit of power armor 3D printed in my corner. There are tons of other people, and maybe those people are no, actually, it's dog shit. I don't like it.
Right.
As me, as someone, an admitted casual fan of of really every franchise, because I'm not a super fan of anything. besides Metal Gear Solid.
I was about to say, what about Metal Gear?
I felt very seen and respected, and this is the flavor. This is the level of effort that is expected and appreciated by fans of the series when you say we're going to put it on the screen.
Right. I'm glad they didn't fumble this one. I felt like they took advantage, and it's an awesome show. One thing I was going to ask, and maybe it didn't answer this, and that's kind of what season 2 will be about, and maybe I missed it. I don't know. But when it kept going to the past, and it was Walton Goggins' character, and then he had the wife and the daughter, right? So it was the wife's idea to drop the bomb. So how, like the first scene of the show is Walton Goggins and then the daughter, and he's like at this birthday party, seemingly later down the road after he's like a movie star or something. He kind of seems washed
Right.
up. Why and how did the bombs go off without them being in a vault? If it was the mom's idea, why was the daughter out and about? Because she said several times in there, like when he was having an issue with her working for Vault Tech, she would say, I'm working for them because I'm securing us a spot in the vaults.
Right.
And I'm securing our future. And so I want to know what happened where the bomb drops, but her husband and her daughter were not secured.
So that is an important question. I think it does remind me that I think in the last episode, the ghoul, Walton Goggins' character, does ask, I want to say it's maybe Moldaver or Lucy's dad, who does end up being...
dad, yeah.
We find out like Lucy's dad is not who he says he is. He is essentially someone who has probably through cryo sleep has survived from before the war. So he's several hundred years old. But he asks one of those people, he's like, where is my family?
Right.
So I don't know, because it's very evident, like when the bombs drop, we also don't find out how he became a ghoul. And that was something I thought was going to get established, like how he, I say survived, like was kept alive. Because when they find the ghoul, he's in a grave in a coffin, and he has whatever chemical it is that helps a ghoul not become feral, basically like hooked up to an IV going into the grave. I don't know, man. There's some unanswered questions. The unanswered questions are all like forgivable in my mind, because I think they are things that the filmmakers know we want answered. And it just makes me eager to watch the next season.
Yeah. It already got renewed for the second one, so that's good.
It did.
Very good.
That's good news.
It's
good
gonna
news.
be a while, but other than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And rightfully so. Like this is a thing, like if this is a thing where TV shows can't just do a new season every year, I get it, man. It probably took more than a year to make what we got. There's other good things that are coming out, and I would rather sit and wait quietly than have season 2 be rushed to failure. Yeah. So absolutely, take your time. Take your time. We're not in as big of a hurry as you think we are.
Right.
And if it takes 2 years, if it's 2026 before I'm watching Fallout season 2, then personally, so be it.
We want it to be good.
Yes.
Want it to be good.
Yes.
Man,
absolutely.
that was great. I'm glad to hear all that. I don't know, from your perspective. Honestly, the entire time I was watching it, I was kind of looking forward to just talking to you about it. So I really liked it. I thought it was great. So glad to hear that it holds up from somebody who knows a little bit more about that universe than I do.
I guess as a final stamp on it, because I know you have kind of dabbled in Fallout, but probably would be someone who I'd consider as just like largely just like a coming in blind.
Yep.
How, like, overall, what was your impression of it? Because my thing is, like, I feel like the show was good enough that if you have no idea that the Fallout games exist, you would still be enjoying yourself watching this.
It was. So, okay, all the little things that I think really made the show for you, I didn't notice those. So, like, that aspect that made the show so good for you, I don't think were for me. Now, with that aside, I really liked it. I mean, I enjoyed it from front to back. I would say it didn't, like, I was never in a chokehold by this show. Like there's some shows that I'll watch, you watch too, that just they grab you and you cannot wait for the next episode, or you kind of can't stop thinking about it, or it just really, really grabs you. It never really did that. Like I never was just like, oh my God, I can't believe how amazing this is. I cannot wait to watch the next one. But with everyone that ended, I was like, that was an awesome episode. And every time I started the next one, I was excited to watch it. So, it wasn't like a 9 or 10, but I'd say probably like an 8. Like I thought it was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. And maybe it's just because some of those smaller things didn't translate for me. Maybe that's what takes it from like an 8 to a 9, knowing all the little things. But it had its moments. I really liked it, and I'm looking forward to season 2 for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, that does remind me. My last thing, I had alluded to the other thing that I was crushing this week. I absolutely loaded up Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 on my PC. I think I'm going to roll with my Fallout 4 playthrough again, just because that world is a little more like fun to play in 2024. The Fallout 3 is getting old, man.
I think I might too, man. I had the idea to fire up the Xbox and download Fallout 4 because it's on Game Pass, and they're doing the next gen update.
It is, and it's also in the UK. Fallout 4 is back to the #1 selling game across all platforms for Fallout 4. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, it absolutely, like for me as a fan of the series, the show sent me fucking running back into the world. So very much.
I'm gonna start playing that. I think maybe next week. I don't know. Apparently there is some pretty deep vault lore that I thought might be kind of cool to have, like a deep dive vault lore type segment here in the next couple weeks or something. I feel like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Maybe we could do something like that.
All right. That was a good episode, man. We went way longer than anticipated. I'm sorry. You got a lot going on over there.
That's okay. That's okay. You get me started on something I'm passionate about, man. I can go for a while. But, hey, we want to say thank you guys for checking in with us again this week. No write-ins this week. We're going to take a break from that, I think, while we get through the move. But all that's going to mean is gives you an opportunity to write in. You can send us more questions. Let's see. If you watched on YouTube, hey, we appreciate that. Like, subscribe, check in with us periodically. We love that in the comments. If you're listening, a review, a star rating means so much to us. It helps us out a big deal. And yeah, want to say thank you guys for tuning in with us this week.
Thanks for being here, friends. This has been another episode of The Hardpoint. And stay tuned for the quarter of 100 episode next
Oh my God. I can't believe that. That's crazy. I wish you all many Baja blessings upon your little foreheads. See you next week.
See ya.